did those guys not show you any respect? And you were like, okay, all right, listen, buddy, you give it to me, you're going to get it back times 10.
That's kind of the way it goes, isn't it? I mean, I think, maybe my dad taught me the wrong thing. My dad taught me that you don't get even, you get ahead.
Robby, it's good to see you, man. You're a busy guy.
How's it going, Paul? It's good to see you too.
Yeah, it's been a while. I've been in Havasu a couple times and tried to run into you there, but it looks like you got a big new shop there in California.
Yeah, so we moved headquarters over to Anaheim, and then we still have the engine shop in Charlotte. I don't know if you're aware of that project or not, but I ended up with Mopar Performance, which was the Everham engine shop, which then Everham, Ganassi, and Penske all kind of moved together. There was one big headquarters shop there in Charlotte, so we have that as our engine facility. And when Tesla bought the big building off of 77 and 485, we moved everybody from that building over to the engine shop, and then I moved headquarters of Speed UTV to California, just because that's where a lot of our sales are. So I'm over in Anaheim Hills now.
Hey, it's Paul Tracy. Quick heads up for all you hardcore racing fans. Racers got a killer deal right now. Stream the best in motorsports with Racer Plus and get a full year of Racer Magazine. 6 badass collectible issues, all bundled and discounted. We're talking live WRC, Dakar, Crandon Off-Road, DTM, British touring cars, Le Mans, World Superbike, and even the Isle of Man TT, all in one place. Hit up racer.com/bundle and fuel up on all the best racing from around the world. That's racer.com/bundle. Well, let me start this off. I'm going to break down your numbers here because we start off with you've been kind of out of the scene for a little bit and doing all this off-road stuff, but you got 2 IndyCar wins in your career, 4 NASCAR wins. And I didn't realize this. Maybe I forgot, or I just didn't realize that you got 4 Daytona 24-hour wins, 3 Sebring 12-hour wins, Baja 1000 winner 3 times, 4 times the Baja 500 winner, and 9 stage wins in the Dakar Rally. That's some pretty serious numbers, brother.
It's kind of all over the board, isn't it?
Well, that was one of the things I was going to say is like, you're one of the, I mean, there's no question, Robby, that if any race driver brings up your name, you're a guy that's known as a guy that could drive anything, anywhere. It didn't matter if it was a 30-inch travel off-road car or a 5mm travel Indy car. You could drive the wheels off of it. And that's a rare breed. There's only a handful of guys that have done what you've done. And one of those would have been Parnelli, who was very successful in off-road and also Indy cars, but in a much different, time frame. But you look at the history of the sport. I mean, there's guys like AJ and there's guys like Tony Stewart, and I believe yourself, that are known could drive anything and have won at everything.
Well, thanks for that. Yeah, I feel very, very, very fortunate. You mentioned those stats, and then you go back a little bit farther, and I grew up obviously racing motocross at a very young age, and then moved into Mickey Thompson, and that's kind of why we started the Stadium Super Truck. It might start making a little bit of sense here, but I went from motocross to Mickey Thompson, and I became good friends with Mickey. And the year I won the Mickey Thompson Championship driving for Toyota was the year that unfortunately him and his wife were murdered. So the year I win the championship, I lose one of my heroes right there. Prior to that, and this is kind of cool here that you said that, I was able to work as a young kid, sweep the floors at this man's shop. And this is one of the original Parnelli Joan Blazers. And obviously, you know, PJ and myself have been friends for a long time, but I was able to sweep the floors around this car back in the beginning when my father landed the BF Goodrich program and brought that over to Parnelli when I was about 6 years old.
Yeah.
1976. So I guess I would have been 7 at the time, and got to run around the Parnelli Jones shop back in the day, which they had Indy cars, NASCARs, Baja trucks. They had the big Ole Bronco, and then they had this Chevy Blazer program with BF Goodrich. They had Danny and Gaius' IndyCar program, as well as the drag race program. So Parnelli's one that has kind of done it all, and I was fortunate enough to, one, become good friends with PJ, which you are as well as Kid, but then, you know, hang around that shop, which the years I was around that shop, I believe it was John Bernard was around there, and he was developing the cars. So I was able to learn from some of the best engineers in the business at just as a toddler, basically. And then you look from Mickey Thompson, I get picked up from Jack Roush and go live at Jack Roush's house for 2 years after that. And, you know, then Roush to AJ Foyt, a couple years in Texas with AJ.
Yeah.
And then from AJ to Toyota and PPI and those programs. And then, you know, IROC and NASCAR as well, finished second in IROC championship a couple times. And then went NASCAR racing, and, you know, everybody always gave me a hard time of, why don't you just focus on one discipline? Why do you just do this? And thank God I didn't listen to that, because I'd be a retired race car driver instead of running a car company that develops engines and tires and wheels and shocks and anything possible to go into the automotive industry, as well as a couple off-road series with our Stadium Super Truck series, which I believe you've done that a few times with us, which thank you. And then now I ended up purchasing Nora, which was the original Baja 1000. So we're the majority of Nora as well. Have some good partners in that series, but we've got that one as well.
This podcast is brought to you by Racer and Racer.com, the leading motorsports news and information source in North America. With special thanks to trusted silver and gold trading partner and studio sponsor ITM Trading and Scottsdale-based Apex Motor Club. I'm a member there. It's a membership-only private track racing community right here in Phoenix. If you want to go racing, that's the place to be. So I remember the first time, I don't know if you remember this, but I remember the first time I ever met you. I was out in California, and I used to hang out with this guy that lived in Downey, a guy named Mike Berg. I don't know if you remember that guy.
I remember Mike.
Or not. Yeah, so he's like, hey, let's go down to Del Mar. There's a race down there, and check things out. So we go down there, and I was just signed to Penske. It was 91. We go down there, and I'm standing around in the paddock, and you walk up to me and you stick your hand out and you shake my hand super hard, like I'll try to break my hand, and you're like, I'm gonna kick your ass next year, and then just walk away. And I said to Mike, I'm like, who the fuck was that guy? And he goes, oh my God, that's Robby Gordon. He's a badass, man. That guy's bad.
And so were you, Paul. You were a badass, and I was so looking forward to racing with you. You know, it's funny when you're kids and you say this stuff, and then you say this comment, and I watch what young Deegan's doing, and I honestly sit back and laugh. The little games that we all played when we were kids. It's funny to sit back 30 years later and reminisce on some of the stuff. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, well, you and I mean, back in that era, you started in 92 with Foyt, and I mean, you came right out of off-road. Well, you were in IMSA, which was, I mean, even still an IMSA, that was a big, heavy car, kind of more like a NASCAR. It had, big tires and big brakes on it, but, it was a lot of travel, but a lot of power, a lot of travel, thing rolled around a lot. The transition from that to an Indy car is a difficult transition. Not easy for a lot of guys, but you picked up the IndyCar right away, and you don't see a lot of kids now. Everything's so specialized now that you don't see guys able to move around and drive different things and pick it up right away. I mean, like, for example, even though this was very late in life for Jimmy Johnson, but it was a difficult transition for him to go from a heavy tin top car to a open wheel car. But for you were jumping around all over the place and doing everything.
Yeah, that was fun. I mean, I think we met up at Detroit was probably our first race, right?
Yeah.
In 91 that year. And then I ended up doing a few races for Ganassi that year before going to Foyt in 92, I want to say. It was 92 I was with Ganassi, 93 was Foyt. So 93 was my first full season at Surfers. And I think you were at Penske there. Nigel Mansell came over. Emerson was there. We all kind of met up at Surfers, I think, or I think was Surfers the first race of the year that year? I think it was.
Yeah, I think it might have been, or maybe Phoenix was first. I think Phoenix was first in 93. You might have finished on the podium at Phoenix, didn't you?
Yeah. No, yeah, I finished on the podium at Surfers and had a good run at Phoenix, but I think I stuffed it at Phoenix. I think I got yelled at from Foyt at Phoenix. We had a good run there, but I remember I think Phoenix was the first race, and then we went to Surfers the second race, and AJ didn't go, and we were on the pole on day one, and that was when we had 2-day qualifying back then, and I fell to second on Saturday, and ended up finishing third to Nigel and Emerson, and I know you were right there battling with us too, but you look at what we were able to do and come up through the sport, and don't get me wrong, our fathers did everything they could do, but nothing like what today is. There was big corporate sponsors at that time, and I believe was that a Marlboro program for you that year? I believe it was, right?
Yeah, I was driving for Penske with Marlboro. Yeah.
Yep.
And you were
I had
Copenhagen.
Copenhagen. Yeah. Yep. And I mean, those were big deals. And, and then you look at people today getting in the sport and what it takes of a financial commitment to climb the ladders. It's very, very difficult. I'm going through that with Max right now. It's like, guys come to me and said, oh, let's put Max in Indy Lights car. And they come to me and they say, yeah, I can do it for, probably $1.5 million, $2 million. And I just sit and chuckle and laugh and walk away. It's like,
yeah. Well, that's what it costs now. I mean, and I was going to get there with Max. I mean, your dad put you in racing at a young age and, quickly got you into road racing, but that was obviously with the support you got, with your success in off-road. And then you get the support of Ford going into road racing. I mean, the clock is really kind of ticking for Max. Cause I talked to you 5 years ago about when you're going to get Max in on a pavement car, a F2000 car. Like, what is there a game plan for him?
Well, the game plan is he's gonna have to earn his right. Real simple, just like I did, and just like you did. I'm sorry, but this isn't a daddy paying Max to go racing program. So it's not happening. So, he has opportunities with obviously our vehicles in the desert stuff and stadium super truck, and he's obviously proved that he can perform at that level. With Hunter Ray's had him in some Formula cars down playing around in Florida, and I think he's got it, but just doesn't have the experience of what these young guys are doing. And are we going about it the wrong way? I don't know. Time will tell. I know that the first time I climbed in one, it was about 19 years old. Was the first time I think I climbed into a 24-hour Daytona car, and we ended up winning the 24 hours. So you've really got to be in the right position at the right time in the right place. And hopefully, in the next couple of years, we'll have him in that position that he can go and do that. I look at.
So you've done it all. I mean, you've done, obviously you started in IndyCar and then you started in IMSA, which, endurance racing, and then IndyCar and then NASCAR. Is there a direction that you would prefer to have Max go in, or is it whatever opportunity opens up, we jump through?
I think whatever opportunity opens up, and I think that's probably the realistic way. We're all into our car company right now. He's very involved in what we're doing. He's very involved in the engineering and in the racing side of it. He led Nora all the way down to basically to La Paz, and we threw it away with an alternator, which is a bummer. But as far as speed goes, he's got the speed, and we're teaching him as much as we can about automotive and what it takes. He builds his own engines, he builds his own gearboxes. He's very, very hands on. He can build his own shock absorbers as well as fabricate and play on SolidWorks a bit. So he's pretty well rounded as far as that goes. And as a race car driver, he's very brave. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah. So Townsend, he's kind of in the same boat as you. Townsend didn't have any racing background from his parents. His dad wasn't involved in racing, and he had to go racing by finding the money himself. And now his son wants to race, Jackson, and he's told his son, "Great, I'll help connect the dots business wise, or maybe there's people I know, but it's your job to go sell it, find it. If you're going to make this happen, you're going to work for it." And I think that's a problem now with a lot of kids in racing. That I see is you go to these go-kart races, or you go to any level coming up through, and like you said, a lot of these kids don't know how to work on their own stuff. They show up to a go-kart race, and they've got 5 carts and a semi waiting for them, and a mechanic and a social media guy following them around with a camera, and none of them have to work for it anymore. It's just kind of handed to them on a silver plate. Well,
that's the key. And, that's not going to be the case for Max, at least while he's under my umbrella. He's going to have to earn it. So like I said, he prepped all the trucks, him and his staff guys. They got all the trucks ready for Long Beach this year as we were focused on the car deal. Had no mechanicals. He ended up winning one day at Long Beach this year. The one thing with Max that we're fortunate is we get to put him in front of hundreds of thousands of people. If you look at Stadium Super Trucks, I know this sounds crazy and weird, but I have no idea why we have more followers of a Stadium Super Truck than IndyCar as a complete series. Doesn't make sense, but maybe it's because the wild and crazy. And what that does is it puts them in front of people and gives them that marketing opportunity to be able to entertain in front of high-level people.
Yeah. So talking about IndyCar, when you first started, you and I don't think you and I ever got in a crash together. We certainly never got in any problems on track, but we would literally go. I remember this because I would get yelled at all the time. We would go out of the pits on an installation lap and race each other flat out, and then come in the pits, and I'd come in and the brakes are smoking hot, and I've warped the brake pads because we were racing each other flat out on cold tires to see who could not get past. And I would come in, and my team manager would be like, "What the hell are you doing? What's wrong with you?" And I'm like, "I'm not going to let Robbie buy her."
It was the same on the other side. It was the same on the other side. And then, once the races stopped, heck, we just went to the streets. The race never stopped for us. We had a lot of fun, Paul. Yeah. I was, from race cars to boats to fun. We had a lot of fun together for sure. And it was awesome racing. I look at back at those times, and man, I'd trade and do that again every day, all day.
Well, you had some serious conflict with, like I said, I never really got into any conflict with you, but you had some serious run-ins with some big name guys like, Jeff Gordon and Michael Andretti, and, who else was there? There's quite a long list. There's Michael Waltrip. You threw your helmet at him. You got into it with Tony one time, almost got in a fist fight. What was it? Did those guys not show you any respect, and you were like, "Okay, all right, listen, buddy, you give it to me, you're gonna get it back times 10"?
That's kind of the way it goes, isn't it? I think maybe my dad taught me the wrong thing. My dad taught me that you don't get even, you get ahead, and maybe that was the problem, but. You look at the Gordon thing. There's a lot to some of these stories. I think it'll be, when I say this one, it'll be quite interesting. And I look back at Jeff, and I totally respect him as a race car driver and as a businessman. Unbelievable. But we were both thrown in to Ford at a young age. So this one here, I would say as 20-year-olds or 19-year-olds, I got the better program. In the long run, Jeff might have ended up with the better program for the next 15 years. But for that first 5 years, I for sure ended up with the best program. Michael Kranifus was involved with Ford Motor Company, and we were both coming up through the ranks. Um, and this one will when I say it, it'll kind of make sense to a lot of people. But I think the animosity between Jeff and myself started at a very young age because we both went to Ford as kids, and we both were fighting for our position. Who would get Kranifus's ear? And I was very fortunate at a young age. I got the right ear. I went to Roush, and they sent Jeff to what was his name? Baby Ruth Carr, um, Bill something. I'm brain dead right now. Bill Davis. Bill Davis. Sorry about that. Jeff Gordon went
Yeah.
to Bill Davis, and I went to Jack Roush. And as in the younger years, my career took off because it went Roush to Jackie Stewart to AJ Foyt. And I think I don't know what Jeff's story is going to be on this. It might be a good one to bring into the podcast here, but at that point, not this one, maybe do it another time just to see his side of the story and see if they're a little different. But I think at a young age, I got the better opportunity for sure. But in the long run, the decision for Jeff's career with NASCAR was obviously the right decision for him. And it worked out really, really good. You look back at it as kids, it's like I went IndyCar racing, and then IndyCar racing split, and I ended up going NASCAR racing at a later age. So by that point, Jeff already had 5-6 years of experience on me, which was very good. And then by that point, he's already into a Hendrick ride, and him and Rick hit it off, and they're rocking and rolling. They're the top dogs over there. So I think until IndyCar split, I think I had the better opportunity. But when IndyCar split, I made the decision right away because of IROC and finishing second to Mark Martin and beating Dale Earnhardt Sr. both years. I'm like, I'll just go stock car racing. If they're going to split, I'll just go stock car racing and go do that. And, and I think it was definitely the right decision. I was probably to stock car racing too early with engineering and technology and the way I wanted to run a team. They weren't ready for that in the early days. When I went to Felix and I tried to bring in engineers and tried to bring in an IndyCar program over to stock car, they looked at me like I had three eyes. And if you look at how our programs run today, it's pretty much what we were doing back with IndyCars in the 90s.
It's very technical now. Obviously, it's a lot more than when you went. But I mean, I guess this leads to another question that I think a lot of people have asked me, like, you're a guy that's driven for some of the best teams there is. You've driven for Childress, you've driven for top level teams, you've driven for top level IndyCar teams. You've been sponsored by
everybody.
Monster, Red Bull. You've done product development for Can-Am, Polaris, but people say, what the is Robby doing starting his own deal when why not just collect the check? Why not just get paid to drive for Childress? Why leave and start your own team?
All right, you ready for this?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is well, there's a couple things. Why start your own team? That's so you can actually, at the end of the day, do this. All right. And when you think about the other side of it, if I was just a race car driver, today I'd just be a race car driver. Okay. But I'd be a 55-year-old race car driver trying to figure out what I'm going to do. And by doing our own programs, and that started early, is I knew eventually I wanted to have our own platform across the board. And basically that's what we've been working on for the last decade with the Speed brand, from Speed Energy to Speed tires to Speed cars to Speed engines to Speed everything you can think of, RC cars, across the board, any product that involves what we like to do, and that's racing, you got to have speed. And you give me an opportunity to talk about this, and it's kind of weird that instead of having sponsors, we'll just build the whole sponsor from the get-go, from top to bottom. And it's really allowed us to do things very different than what anybody has ever done. Maybe Ford Motor Company, but we built our own engines, our own cars, our own seats, our own tires, our own steering wheels, our own shoes, every single part of everything. And, you look at the UTV industry, and why don't I stay with Polaris? And I'm going to get into that story with you, which is going to be quite shocking for you when I really give you the truth to the whole thing. But, when I say tires, we went all the way to making our own tires from the get-go with our own shocks, our own seats, our own seat belts, our own steering. And we've sold thousands of these cars. We've delivered about 1,500, and we have thousands more that we have to deliver customers every day.
Yeah. But it's a lot of, it's a lot of work, man. It's a lot more work than I would want to do. And did you get that from your dad? Because a lot of people would say, look, you've got all these great deals. You got driving for like I said, you drove for the best teams. You had the biggest sponsors, but why not just collect the check? And I guess the old saying is work smarter, not harder, but you seem to like to work hard.
No, I definitely work hard. And I believe I work pretty methodically, smart. And unfortunately, I'm not in control of my own destiny. So when certain things happen, certain things change. And, so, the industry we're in today actually started about 20 years ago. I was driving for Menard, and we were doing the IndyCar program. And he was on the board of directors at Polaris, and he said, "Hey, I brought a Yamaha Rhino up to his place." And he said, "Hey, do you think you could build one of these?" And I remember we were building trophy trucks by this time that had already won the Baja 1000, built them from scratch. And so in 2004, I designed the Razor for Polaris. And John was on the board, and we were able to, be involved in the full development of the Razor product, which Razor stood for Robby's Ride back in the day. So a lot of the times during NASCAR, we were using royalty programs to get this thing off the ground. And this one here will quite shock you, and I'm bringing it up because you brought it up in the podcast. But in 2010, I designed the Polaris Razor 4-seater.
Yeah.
And there's the prototype.
I remember. Yeah.
And I believe late 2010, I threw my helmet at Michael Waltrip. And I had a contract with Polaris that Polaris, it was an arbitration contract. I believe we were getting paid $350 a car. Great contract. We sold 55,000 units of the 4-seater that year. It was about $20 million in royalties. And Polaris was able to get out of their contract based on public embarrassment for the company under an arbitration contract. So to date, the royalties Polaris should have paid is in the $800 million worth today.
Jesus.
So when you say, why did I do this? And it started with that same thing competing with you the first time. If you do me wrong, I'm going to get even. So it took 5 years to be able to get back into the business again. And in 5 years, I connect up with Articat, and we developed this car that comes out in 2008.
Yeah.
And 18, sorry. And right away, back in the game again, we get UTV of the year in 2018. Articat stock goes up, they sell to Textron. Textron executives said, I know you got an agreement, but, we run the company now, and we're going to do things different, and we're not going to build your cars. So why don't you take your cars and go do something different? So corporate management told me there was no business case for a turbocharged four-seater. Relationship was terminated. 5 months later, I took the car to Sand Sports and we sold 180 of them the same day on pre-orders. By the time we get to COVID happening in January, I have over 3,000 cars committed from customers.
I remember that because I was there at the Sand Sports show, and I remember this vividly. Your dad had passed away just literally not only just a couple days before that, and you were there just working your ass off, like never missed a beat. I mean, I guess you got that work attitude from your dad. I don't think your dad would want you to stop, right?
No, I don't think so. And then, and then COVID happened and we persevered through that and have delivered up to, I think we're into about 1,100 four-seaters, about 500 Diablos, 200 Bandits delivered to customers and rocking and rolling. So it's been a pretty gnarly battle, but at the end of the day, we don't give up, and we just keep going and going and going. And I believe that we make good products, and we've had a lot of fun throughout the years.
So, I mean, obviously, there's a lot right now. Your cars are made overseas. Where they made in Taiwan or not made in China? But
Vietnam.
where are they made now? How do those? I mean, all this stuff going on politically with the tariffs and all that kind of stuff. I would assume your tires, all that kind of stuff, is a lot of it's made overseas. How does all of that affect you right now, short term versus long term?
Well, short term, it's and that's the biggest thing is our cars are pre-ordered. So these are past orders that we're fulfilling still on these cars, and we deliver about 120 cars a week right now.
Yeah.
So you think about building 120 cars every week, and we're delivering 120 of them every week to customers, and we have thousands still to catch up on. It's when you look at starting a car company, you look at what Tesla did and what Ford did and some of these other guys, it's not easy. And especially when you fight through an unknown situation. And I think the tariff is an unknown and COVID was both an unknown. But the key is we're head down, focused and working on it. And we've been affected a little bit. And the hard part is we've already committed prices to customers. So when we get hit with a 10% surcharge, that's a big number. It hits our bottom line really, really hard. And, it'll be an interesting battle here for the next 3 months to understand exactly what happens at that 90-day period. Like he's warned us that things are going to change. But I got to be honest, I don't know who wants to build these cars in a factory here in America. It's very, very hard to find workforce today. In any industry, doesn't matter if it's a NASCAR team, an IndyCar team, since COVID, it's made it very, very hard to find a very solid, committed workforce. And it's the same challenges we fight, just like every other manufacturer here in America as well.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you could build that car in the United States versus what it costs you to build it overseas. I mean, it would be $150,000 car if you were to build it here versus building it in Asia.
That's exact. You hit the nail right on the head. That is the exact number that we believe this car built here would cost. With the amount of time and labor, the way our cars are welded. I mean, I know our cars. If you look at weld for weld on a current Cup car that gets handed to you from NASCAR, our cars are welded better. The quality is higher. The standard is higher, and it'd be $150,000 race car is what it would be. And so it's going to be an interesting time here the next 12 months. Interesting to see what happens. We've been doing everything the way we're supposed to do it, and it's like I said, we lost a couple of years with COVID, and that cost us a couple of years, or else we'd be a couple of years out of the competition. But we've got 2 new cars coming for Sand Sports, actually 3 new models. I've got a kid model. I've got an air-conditioned enclosed model, as well as a V8 powered car for Sand Sports. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens in the next 12 months.
So the current tariff is what you said 10% now for that. I mean, that's a lot better than China, where Trump said, I'm going to hit you with 150% tariff. I mean, you
147 is China.
147%. That would put you right out of business. So I just literally talked to a guy yesterday who's a wheel manufacturer and all of his stuff's made in China. He says, a friend of mine, he says, I've got $5 million in inventory sitting on a boat that I've said, I don't want it. Hang on, time out. I don't want to take delivery of it. And it's sitting ready to go on a boat.
Yeah, we're in the same boat. We have some parts that come from China. Obviously, our car is manufactured in Vietnam, and we've switched a lot of our manufacturing over there as well. And we've been hit with I think we're at 12.5% right now tariff, which is a 10% increase.
Bad. Yeah.
Wasn't bad. It was reasonable. And I know that Vietnam and United States have been negotiating. So hopefully they can come up with an even tariff across the board. I think, one of our tariffs going that direction to Vietnam was like 47%, and coming here was 2.5. So I can see it going up. Hopefully ours goes down and we stay somewhere about where we're at. And Trump feels that that's the right thing, for both countries. But it's going to be very interesting to see what happens the next, I guess we're about 70 days away. He said we had a 90-day stay, so we'll see what happens in 70. But I have a lot of friends in the wheel industry that are on the verge of closing the doors, big companies. And that's not good for anybody. And the problem is the tariff, and I didn't want to turn this into a political deal anyway, because I voted for Trump, and I was Trump all the way, and I know you were too. But the tariff is only going to hit the end use consumer. We don't pay China that tariff. We pay the U.S. government that tariff. So the tariff when we pay a tariff coming in, we're paying our government a tariff on that, which means that the cost of product is just going to go up to the consumer, which is very unfortunate. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about one of your other loves. I mean, I was going through some hard time back in '95. I was getting divorced and having a tough time with that. And you put your arm around me one time and said, "Come on out to Havasu with me out to Parker, and let's go out boating." And I'd never been out. I was living in Arizona. I'd never been out there before. And once I went out on your boat, I was like hooked. And I've literally, because of you, have spent millions of dollars on boats over the next 25 years, thanks to you.
Well, hey, sorry about that, Paul. I didn't mean to do that to you, but I think you got the fish hook as well. It's you've got obviously your skater, and you got your place there in Havasu, and I know we hung out a couple summers ago, but it's fun. I mean, our Desert Storm was awesome. I enjoy that industry and that crowd as well. Very similar, just a bunch of cool guys hanging out with hot rod boats. It's very similar to the off-road industry. It's just the powerboat side, and you not only got the hook, you got the bobbin too. You took a big bite out of it and went and played hard.
Well, you had some pretty cool stuff. I remember that first boat I went in with you. You had this little Hallet boat, like a ski race boat, and it had a big turbocharged motor in it. And you're like, okay, let's go for a ride. And we were going like $1.15 down the river in this thing, and I was like, holy shit, this thing is fast, man.
Yeah, no, it was a ski race boat, like you said. It was one of those Hallet ski race boats with a twin turbocharged Gentry in it. But that was the only thing back in the day that reminded me of the power of the IndyCar. The acceleration and the power. It was like, that was awesome. And then, because of IndyCar, we were able to hook up, and I think I hooked you up with Reggie as well, but was able to hook up with Reggie Fountain, and we had Fountain boats on the river and on the Havasu, and I think you had a big Magic. I remember your first one was a big twin engine Magic boat.
Yeah. Yeah, after that first weekend of going to the lake with you, I went straight to Havasu and bought a boat that next week, and I've had big boats ever since. And ironically, I actually have a 38 Fountain that's just like the one that you have. I have it. It's all white. I don't know. It could have been your boat back in the day, but it's an older boat. But it's just one of those boats are just like a super cool looking iconic boat, and I've always liked that boat ever since I went for a ride with you in it in Havasu.
Well, we had a lot of fun, and I appreciate our friendship over the years and the competition. I think, we've pushed each other, and I do remember putting my arm around you and say, come on, let's go to the river this weekend. And you not only swallowed the fish hook, you went all the way for the bob. And I think you ended up getting a house and park or a boat. You were all in
Yeah.
and had a lot of fun there. Now you're out in Havasu, just having a great time, which is cool.
Yeah. So, I mean, back in the day, your fitness, like I've been talking to a lot of the old drivers about fitness now versus fitness then. And I mean, we used to test all the time, and I didn't really work out that much back in those days because I was driving so much when I was with Penske, because I was always testing. We tested a ton. But what was your fitness back then? Because you drove a lot. You were in off-road. When you weren't driving an Indy car, you were in an off-road car. But you also you were a really good water skier. I remember that. Like we would go across the lake, and your sister would tow you in that Hallet, and you'd be like speed skiing behind this thing at like 60, 70 miles an hour on a single.
Yeah. Well, I think, that was and all through my NASCAR days when we lived on Lake Norman, it was, I enjoyed the water. So a lot of swimming, a lot of wakeboarding, and a lot of playing. And, somehow I got to get myself back to that because, I've been doing a whole lot of working lately. And, obviously if you look at me, you'd say, he's gained some weight.
Yeah.
Stress is real. And I've been watching you on the bike, and you look great. Looks like, you're dialed in good shape and having a good time.
Well, I got back in shape because, simply because I wanted to drive more. And, you tell people, yeah, I want to drive. And they look at you and I would imagine they automatically think, well, you don't look ready to drive because you're not in good shape. But, I started, after my TV deal kind of winded down, I wanted to drive more. And I thought I liked the process of getting up and working out and having a goal to meet. So I got myself back in shape. I've been driving more, been racing more. And I actually wanted to run something by you. I don't know if you've heard from one of your old guys that used to work with you, Mike Held. I ran into him at Long Beach, and I was standing there BSing with Jimmy at the Lexus tent, and Mike throws out this idea. He's like, I got an idea, and I'm going to run this by you because I don't know if he contacted you or not, but he's like, I have an idea of we do a can't drive 55 24-hour race, and I want to get all crew guys over 55, like get Mark Johnson and all these old cats that have been around forever, everybody on the crew over 55, then me, you, Jimmy, and Max Pappas in a 24 hours of Daytona. What do you think?
I like it. You said something and bummer. Where'd he go? You said a name. And same guy, Mike Held, sent him my direction. And he's been evaluating my company for the last 10 days. But Mark Johnson's here working at Speed UTV.
Oh, he is?
Yeah. So when you said the name, it's funny. I was going to walk over and say, that Mark Johnson?
Is he there?
He's here somewhere. His car's still out there. I know it's lunchtime. He might have taken off with Todd or one of the guys to lunch, but no, Mark's, he came in right after Long Beach, and we met on Monday. And, he just lives over in Laguna Niguel, not too far from me here in Anaheim. And so when I was in Baja last week and I was gone, he was here basically evaluating what's going on and trying to streamline the process, basically putting everything, just like we always did with everything, is where are we losing, seconds? Seconds turn into minutes, minutes turn into hours. And obviously the same thing in the automotive industry. We got to be on the gas. We got to be moving and shaking. So I like that Can't Drive 55 program. You can sign me up for that. And
well, you better get your ass in shape. You better get your ass in shape because you're looking a little portly over there.
Well, I don't know. I just did 1,400 miles in Baja last week, so I think I can handle it. I'm pretty good at holding my breath. I can hold my breath for a long time. So driving over the edge should be okay.
Yeah. Well, it's, you know, a lot, you do, I mean, I'm going to say this, you get a hard time from a lot of people. I mean, a lot of people think, oh, that Robby Gordon, he's kind of an asshole, but you've always been, to me, the kind of guy that would take your shirt off your back to help somebody out. And I know you've got, like I said, we were talking earlier, you've gotten into some conflict with a lot of guys and had some dust ups, but in terms of me, I mean, we've never had any issues. And I even dated your sister for a while and you didn't get pissed off at me.
Now, hey, Paul, it's all good. You know, you brought up another one and it's kind of crazy when you think about it. You brought up Michael, you know, and then, you know, we have the situation with Waltrip and I lose my Polaris deal. And then, a few years later, I think Dario got hurt. And I ended up driving Michael's car at Indianapolis, put on the front row, and I think we finished third or fourth with it. So, you know, it's funny because people are like, oh, you know, you got a beef with Michael. I'm like, I don't think so, but maybe there is one that I'm not aware of. But you know, it's I think a lot of stuff in what we do gets blown out of proportion. People don't understand the whole situation all the way through, and I think we're going to see that with young Deegan right now in motocross. You know, the kid's so good that he can basically say whatever he wants to say, get away with whatever he wants to, because he backs it up at the end of the day.
Yeah. Well, I remember my 02 Indy 500, and I crashed my brains out qualifying day and, you know, kind of jacked my back up. And I went home for a couple of days and I thought about quitting and not going back. Barry Green gave me the option of like, hey, if you want to quit, if you're not feeling this, we can go test at Mid-Ohio or come back and we'll try and qualify next week. And I was like, I was on the fence about it for a bit. And then you called me and like, hey, what's going on with your car? And I said, it just won't fucking turn. And you're like, I'm going to give you my setup sheet. And I came back and you gave me your setup sheet. You were running, I forget who you were running with. Maybe you were running from Menard. Or,
I was running from Menard. It was our program with Menard. Yep.
Yeah. So you gave me your setup sheet at Indy in 02 and I got back in the car and put that setup sheet on. And I mean, the car was so much different. You know, we qualified second weekend and I, you know, qualified at like 229 and, you know, I was on the back row, but I mean,
would have been in the top five, right?
Yeah. Drove it through the field and you could argue whether I won the race or not with Elio. But I mean, before that, we were completely, Dario and I were completely lost and out to lunch, and you gave me your setup, and we both had a good race after that. So I mean, that's the kind of things that a lot of people don't know about you.
Well, and today people wouldn't do that. You know, they would, and today it's
you get fired for that now.
Well, that was the other thought. I was part of the program, so who's going to fire me? You know, that was really one of my whole things is, as a race car driver, I didn't like to be told what I could and couldn't do. And so that's really, you know, Childress didn't tell me what I could and couldn't do. Just, I had probably the best opportunity around when Jim Beam came around and said, you know, do you want to go stock car racing? And I had Jim Beam, Harris, and Red Bull. It's like, let's go do our own program again. Let's go do it again. And, you know, it's obviously easier to drive for somebody than it is to worry about all the headaches. But looking at it today, we would have never had the shops, the engine facilities, the CNC equipment, or the engineering know-how to build a car if I would have just been a race car driver. So thank God I was out on that wild edge doing it my way.
Well, it's exciting to watch, and you keep it. You always keep it exciting to watch, and you've been a great friend over the years. And I don't think a lot of people knew mine and your history, but they're going to get to hear about it now, and it's great to see you. And let me know when you're out in Havasu again. We'll hook up.
Yeah, I'll be out there this summer for sure. We'll catch up. I'd love to have dinner with you. Thanks for having me on the show today. I think it's a good thing you're doing, and you know, any ideas you have with Max, let's throw them against the wall.
All right. Well, hey, what about him as a co-driver in the 24 hours? Let's go.
He can do it. And I've been telling people this a lot. He's been driving my trophy truck. Doesn't matter if it's a trophy truck or what vehicle it is. He's been able to match my speed, which is pretty cool.
All right. Good talking to you, brother.
Take care.
All right.